Part 12. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, She is Soft and Sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 111. Chapter 111 Gu Zingzi is in coma. That's good, Lin Jie breathed a sigh of relief after hearing this, then glanced at the boy in his arms and said to Yu Bao, "Can you save this child?" "Auntie, don't you hate this child?" Yu Bao asked. Lin Jie pulled her lips and smiled bitterly. "What's wrong with the child? It's also the fault of the adults. Moreover, I don't want Niu to be tainted by the cause and effect. Sister, can you help me save my brother?" Niu also raised her head and looked at Yu Bao and whispered. She was still too young to understand the grudges and disputes between adults. She only knew that it was because of her younger brother that she got sick. The little girl felt very guilty. Yu Bao nodded, took out an evil spirit charm and handed it to Lin Jiata. "Put it on your body and it will remove the yin energy from the other person's body. However, if she stayed with Niu for too long, her yang energy will decrease and her body will be damaged. After a period of time he should be weak and prone to illness, so let him get more Sunday." "I got it." Lin Jie was still in a hurry to find her child and did not stay any longer. When the police found the woman's address, they contacted her and came to her door with her child, only to find that her child was not with her at all. No one is a fool. The woman did not want Lin Jie's children to take away the interests of her own children. She deceived the Xie family and sent the children back to her parents' home to take care of them, while secretly selling the children. Fortunately, with the intervention of the police, the child was finally replaced. Afterwards, Yu Bao received 100,000 yuan from Lin Jie and Ji Cheng. Part of it was to thank her for helping him reveal the true colors of his husband's family and to find his son, and the other part was to ask her to help Niu do something. I heard that after Lin Jie found the child, she divorced Xie Linzheng and took the son away alone. Because Xie Linzheng issued a letter of understanding and consent, Xie's mother was only sentenced to a fixed term. Of course these have nothing to do with Yu Bao. Yu Bao was looking at the points received in the system, calculated the medicinal materials that could be purchased, and decided to refine another batch of elixirs at night. With this furnace of elixirs, she can level up. In the past 2 years, Yu Bao has redeemed a lot of points by refining alchemy, but he also spent a lot of money purchasing materials. Especially in order to improve the grade of the elixir, Yu Bao will add some special materials to it to increase its purity. Through the previous few times of elixir refining, she found that the several medicinal materials written in the elixir were only the most basic ones, and she could supplement them by herself according to the elements needed for the elixir, similar to the function of medicine. It can greatly improve the quality and rate of elixirs. Of course the points needed to redeem materials have also been greatly increased. Yu Bao has just put the required materials into the shopping cart and is ready to click to purchase. Then I saw Lu Zuan running in panting, "Little aunt, something happened, something big happened." "What's wrong?" Yu Bao raised his eyes and looked over. "Lu Zuan, wake up. He was hit by a passing car and went to the hospital." Yu Bao suddenly opened his eyes wide with a swish. "What did you say?" Lu Zuan said, "You didn't wait for us today. Xing and I were going home together. A car suddenly lost control and crashed into us. Xing and I obviously avoided it, but another car happened to come behind us. The car was hit when I woke up." Yu Bao frowned. "How is he now?" Unexpectedly, something happened to the other party as soon as he didn't follow him. Sure enough, the power of the formation cannot be underestimated. "Lu Zuan, I don't know. He was taken away by the ambulance. I'll come back and let you know. Let's go to the hospital to see him together." Everyone said that my little aunt can bring good luck. Maybe my little aunt has gone and woke up. You can wake up as soon as you wake up. Yu Bao took out the copper coins and did a divination. The divination showed that the other party was not in danger, but the situation was not good either. What she was worried about was that the formation was having an increasing impact on him. Even if he was lucky enough to save his life this time, he might not be so lucky next time. System, it should be that the influence of the formation on him has increased. It seems that he must break the formation as soon as possible, otherwise, just take advantage of his injury and break the formation directly, right? You bow, but I haven't refined a 4th grade pill or above yet in the opponent's situation. At least a 5th grade life-sustaining pill is needed to save the opponent's life. System, there is another way, you can buy it directly in the mall. A 5th grade life-sustaining pill requires 5 million points, which is almost half of her existing points. Yubeo seriously doubted that the other party just wanted to earn his own points. She originally planned to upgrade first, and then seize the time to refine the elixir after the upgrade. Given time, she would definitely be able to refine the 5th grade elixir. But now, Yubeo glanced at the shopping cart, finally clicked the cancel button, then switched to the elixir exchange interface, gritted his teeth and bought a 5th grade life-extending elixir. The moment the points were deducted, Yubeo almost burst into tears. It's really heartbreaking. The thought that she was still quarreling with someone made me feel even more distressed. The feeling that I am obviously angry with you, but I still have to fight to save you feels inexplicably suffocating. But if we don't save? Yubao never thought about not saving the other party. Let's go. Yubao endured the heartache and went to the hospital with Lu Xuan. Godmother. Yubao, are you here? In the hospital, Ning Sheng, Gu Boyan, and Mr. Gu were all there. Seeing Yubao, Ning Sheng, and Mr. Gu both looked forward to it. I don't know why, but both of them feel that Yubao can bring good luck. As long as she is here, Xing will be fine. Don't worry, Godmother, it will be fine when you wake up. And Yubao did what the two expected and said what everyone wanted to hear. Ning Sheng has always regarded Yubao as a little lucky star. At this moment, when she heard Yubao say that Gu Xingzi was fine, she breathed a sigh of relief and said, Godmother believes you. Yubao said it's okay, so it will definitely be fine. Yubao, Godmother, do you really believe in Yubao? Of course, the two families live next door, and Ning Sheng also knows some of Yubao's abilities, especially after Yubao helped her avoid trouble several times. His status in her mind is now comparable to that of Koi Carp. The kind that brings good luck if you touch it. Now that the other party has personally said that it will be fine when you wake up, then it will definitely be fine. Godmother, there is something I want to tell you. Yubao immediately told everyone about the fact that someone secretly changed the feng shui of the Gu family's ancestral tomb, and used Gu Xingzi as an enemy to set up an array to steal the Gu family's luck. After Ning Sheng heard this, her eyes widened slightly. Thinking of the accidents that had almost happened to her family in the past 2 years, she couldn't help but break into a cold sweat. Thanks to Yubao's presence, otherwise the Gu family wouldn't know what it's like now. Who is it, who has such a big grudge against the Gu family? She frowned tightly and raised her head to look at Dad Gu. Dad Gu also looked confused. Mr. Gu, on the other hand, said with a bit of solemnity, could it be him? Everyone looked at Mr. Gu. Mr. Gu did not continue, but looked at Yubao and said, is there a way to resolve this? End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 112. Chapter 112. Have you ever thought that he would be afraid? Mr. Gu actually didn't have much hope. Considering the relationship between this girl and his grandson, if he had his way, he wouldn't wait until now. Although this girl is powerful, she is still a child after all. The other party waited until today to say it, probably because there has been no solution. Sure enough, I heard Yubao say that the formation can be solved, but once the formation is broken, Gu Xingzi will be in danger. Everyone's faces instantly turned pale. Is there really no way? Yubao, there is another way, but Yu Bao cannot guarantee that it will be successful. Although the 5th grade life-sustaining pill can extend your life, the method of breaking the formation is extremely dangerous, and there cannot be any mistakes in the process. What should I do if the other party fails to wake up? Don't worry, go ahead and try. Godmother believes in you. The formation is dangerous, and if you can't break it, you will be in danger sooner or later, so it's better to take the risk and give it a try. With the permission of the Gu family, Yubao returned home again. Breaking the formation is not a trivial matter, she needs to make some preparations. Although most of the things are in her system storage compartment, she is afraid of scaring everyone if she takes them out directly. What's more, there is one most important thing that must be returned. After Yubao returned home, she took out her small bag, took out the things she needed from the system, and put them all into the small bag. Finally, she took the little cutie with her. The little black dog that was skinny at first has become a dog now that it is sleek and smooth. Just when I arrived at the entrance of the hospital, I was stopped by the security guard. Children, pets cannot be brought into the hospital. I got it, uncle. Yubao asked the little cutie to turn around, and when there was no one around, he immediately took out an invisibility charm and stuck it on its body, and the little cutie's figure gradually became transparent. Yubao immediately stood up, patted the black dog on the head, and said, "Hello, let's go, little cutie." One person and one dog walked towards the hospital door again. This time the security did not stop them. In the ward, Gu Xingzi was still unconscious. Considering that Mr. Gu was in poor health and fearing that he would not be able to bear the stimulation for a while, Gu's father sent him back first. Now Ningsheng is the only one left in the ward. Seeing Yubao come back, he immediately stood up and said, "Should we start directly? Do you need Godmother to do anything?" "There's no rush yet, Yubao needs to prepare for a while longer. Godmother just needs to sit down for a while. No matter what happens, don't get excited, let alone make a sound." Ningsheng nodded, "Don't worry, my godmother knows and won't disturb you." Yubao then dialed a phone number, and a young voice came from the other end of the phone, "Master, I'm already here." "But, do we really have to do this? Wouldn't it be bad?" Ji Qing was working in the company when he suddenly received a call from Yubao, saying that he had something to do for him. Masters, and especially disciples, should obey their hard work. Furthermore, this is the first time that Yubao has taken the initiative to ask for help. Ji Qing even asked for leave from his supervisor. Then, according to Yubao's instructions, he took the tools and drove to the place designated by Yubao. It turned out to be a cemetery. He never thought that what the other party asked him to do was to dig up other people's ancestral graves. "Yubao, don't worry, I have already made an agreement with the owner of the tomb, and no one will blame you." Ji Qing, is this the point? Has she ever considered the possibility that he might be afraid? Even though it was broad daylight, he was still digging in other people's graveyards. Especially after witnessing the existence of those things with his own eyes, Ji Qing felt a chill in his back before he even started. "Master, I still think this is not a good thing, why don't you forget it?" "Yubao, don't worry, those things won't come out during the day, and I put something on you so that no ghosts within a few kilometers will dare to come close." "Really, really?" "Yubao, of course, it's false. He was born to be punished by his 6 relatives, and was destined to be a lonely star. Not even ghosts dared to come near him. So there is no need for anything to defend yourself." Yubao would say this just because he wanted the other party to feel at ease. As expected, Ji Qing became much more courageous after hearing this, and then he started digging in the direction indicated by Yubao, and he actually dug out 3 Buddha statues. Yubao asked him not to touch the Buddha statue until he asked him to do so. Yubao then took out a bowl from his bag, and then took out a mini dagger. The dagger was given by the 3rd brother of the Lu family who was not at home all year round. The third brother of the Lu family gave her a dagger as a gift when he met her cousin for the first time. He almost escaped being chased and beaten by Aunt Lu. But Yubeo really likes this gift from the other party. The dagger is about 10 centimeters long and made of pure copper. To be precise, this is a magic weapon. I don't know where her third brother got it from, but in short, this gift was very dear to her heart. Yubao held up the bowl and dagger, looked at the dog beside him and said, "Little cutie, I can lend you some blood for your use. Don't worry, I'll lend you a little." Black dog blood breaks the feng shui situation and has the best effect. The invisibility charm only lasted for a quarter of an hour. Ning Shen was surprised at her behavior when she saw a black dog appearing in the ward. Woof woof. The dog was originally lying down. After understanding her intention, he immediately stood up with a shua dash and ran to the door as fast as the wind. He pawed at the door lock and expressed it with practical actions. Gozu refused. Outside the door, the little nurse passing by suddenly paused in her steps and couldn't help but pricked up her ears and listened. "Hey, why do I seem to hear a dog barking?" The little nurse next to her said, "This is a ward and pets are not allowed to enter. You must have heard wrong." The little nurse from before also thought that she might have heard wrongly, so the two of them carried their things and continued walking towards the front ward. In the ward next to the door, Yubeo pulled the little cute paw off the door, bent down and discussed with the dog in a good voice, "I will raise a dog for 1,000 days, use the dog for a while, and I only need a little bit of you, just take the blood. I promise, I'll do it gently. Please, please, I'll have someone stew the bones for you, okay?" Woof, the black dog turned his head away from her and covered his ears with his paws. "If you don't want to listen, don't listen, this is chanting sutras. Don't try to tempt it with flesh and bones." Yubeo was also angry, and puffed up his cheeks and said, "Little cutie, how could you do this? Fortunately, we all regard you as a friend. If a friend is in trouble, shouldn't you also help? Now is the time when life and death are at stake. Let me lend you a moment. You don't want to be a bit of a loser, huh? We don't have such unloyal friends as you." After saying that, he folded his arms and turned away. Woo! The black dog glanced at her, and finally turned around reluctantly, squatting on the ground on its hind legs, raising one paw towards Yubeo, and covering his eyes with the other paw. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 113. Chapter 113 will definitely do what you want. Ning Sheng on the side. Isn't this dog a sperm? Upon seeing this, Yubeo smiled again, hugged the other person's dog's head and said, "This is a good and loyal puppy. Woof, that's a must." Yubeo then raised the dagger in his hand, and the black dog visibly flinched. "How about I do it?" Ning Sheng on the side couldn't help but said. The little girl obviously has a soft and cute face, and the way she holds the knife is quite scary. "No need, I can do it," Yubeo said, quickly scratching the dog's paw, and blood flowed out instantly. After draining half a bowl of the opponent's blood, Yubeo stopped, then wrapped his feet with gauze, patted his dog's head and said, "Thank you for your hard work, little cutie." Woof, the dog's head turned to one side arrogantly, as if he didn't appreciate her good behavior. Yubao then took out a second-grade Xianyuan Dan and turned it in front of the dog's nose. The black dog's eyes immediately lit up, and it stood up from the ground with a swish dash, a pair of round dogs. Her eyes followed the Xianyuan Dan in her hand. The little black dog has already opened his spiritual intelligence, and he has been with Yubao for so long, so he naturally knows that what she has in his hands is a good thing. Yubeo endured the pain and fed the Xianyuan pill to the little cutie and said, "Here, This is a reward for you. I exchanged a Xianyuan pill for a bowl of black dog blood, and I felt like I was losing a lot. The dog swallowed the Xianyuan pill in one gulp, and instantly felt his whole body warm. Spiritual energy flowed through his body. Even the wounds on his paws healed quickly, and he soon felt no pain. The dog's eyes suddenly brightened, and he even took the initiative to raise another dog's paw. Yubao patted its dog's paws away and said, "No, I just want a small bowl of blood. Besides, I don't have that many good things to feed you." Woof woof, the black dog said that he could look for him again next time something like this happens again. It is happy to donate blood to its friends. Although Ning Shen didn't know what Yubao fed the other party, he knew from the pained expression on the little girl's face that it must be very precious. Ning Shen didn't ask the other party what it was. Even dogs know that something good is definitely not an ordinary thing. Ning Shen also knew that Yubao took out these things just to wake up. She remembered the sentiment and asked Xing Xing to return it later. With the black dog blood, Yubao began to prepare to break the formation. She placed the peachwood sword, the 5 thunder order, the compass, the copper coins and the dagger, and placed the 5 magic weapons in 5 different directions, forming a large formation. Ji Qing was then asked to dig out the 3 Buddha statues, wrap them in red cloth, and bring them to the hospital. At the same time that the Buddha statue was dug out, Yubao used both hands to activate the formation. The 5 magical instruments emitted golden light one after another and connected with each other. Soon a large pattern appeared over the ward, forming a powerful force that enveloped Gu Zingzi in the center of the formation. With the blessing of 5 magic weapons, and 3 of these magic weapons coming from the system, the power of the entire formation is greatly increased. Yubao then used cinnabar mixed with black dog blood to draw a spiritual talisman in the air, and then hit the spiritual talisman towards Gu Zingzi. The moment the talisman was attached to Gu Zingzi's body, the unconscious man suddenly spurted out a large mouthful of blood. Ning Shen was so shocked that she stood up from the stool and subconsciously wanted to rush forward. However, thinking of Yubao's instructions, she held it back and only looked nervously in Gu Zingzi's direction. And after Gu Zingzi finished vomiting the first mouthful of blood, he immediately started to vomit the second mouthful, and the third mouthful, as if he wanted to vomit all the blood in his body. Ning Shen's eyes suddenly turned red and she turned her head and couldn't bear to look any further. She wanted to ask Yubao to stop, but her trust in Yubao finally defeated her worries about her son and the fear in her heart. She covered her mouth tightly to prevent herself from making any sound. Afraid of disturbing Yubao. With Yubao, he had never seen such a scene. He couldn't help but paused in his movements, but it was only for a moment. He quickly calmed down and continued with the next action. At this time, in an office building, a man in black robe suddenly stood up from his chair and said in a hoarse voice, "No, someone broke the formation." The man opposite him looked at him sharply and said, "What did you say? Didn't you say that no one can break your formation?" The man in black robe looked at him through the mask. "Why are you panicking? My formation uses the boy from the Gu family as the center of the formation. Once the formation is broken, that boy will definitely die. As long as that boy dies, the strength of the Gu family will come to an end. Isn't that what you want?" The man opposite seemed to be suspicious of his statement, and said with an impatient expression, "At the beginning, you also said that the Gu family would be destroyed soon, but after so many years, not only the Gu group has survived, but also the Gu family. It's still fine." "You don't believe me," the man in black robe said with a hint of displeasure. The man opposite him snorted coldly, "I just don't hope that the results we have planned for many years will end up with nothing." Repeated disappointments finally made him doubt the ability of the black robe. "I always feel that things this time may not go as they wish." When he thought that all his years of planning had come to nothing, the man's heart was filled with resentment. "Black robe, don't worry, I won't let you down this time. The Gu family's strength has been exhausted, and this time it will be as you wish." It's best this way, it's probably because I've waited too long. Even if my long-cherished wish is about to come true, I'm no longer as excited as I was at the beginning. But before he finished speaking, he saw the black robe spitting out a mouthful of black blood. The man looked at him in shock. The black-robed eyes are as dark as a deep pool, and the expression on the face under the mask cannot be clearly seen. Someone actually broke his formation. Does the other party know that once the formation is broken, the life of the Gu family boy will be in danger? As the light in the formation gradually disappeared, Yubeo's little body couldn't help but swayed, and then fell into a warm embrace. Her spiritual power has increased a lot in the past 2 years due to her hard work in cultivation and the assistance of pills. But even so, the ritual ceremony just now consumed most of her energy. Yo Bao turned her head and said to Ning Sheng, who was hugging her, "Godmother, I'm fine. Please put me down quickly and I'll go and see if you wake up." Ning Sheng did not put her down directly, but carried her to Gu Xingzi's bedside in distress. Yu Bao checked the opponent's pulse and found that the opponent's limbs were cold and his pulse was so weak that he could hardly feel it. He hurriedly took out the 5th-grade life-sustaining pill and fed it to him. After a while, I went to check the other person's breathing again, and felt that his breathing came from nothing. Although it was very weak, it at least proved that the other person was still alive, and then I quietly breathed a sigh of relief. End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, She is Soft and Sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 114. Chapter 114. I was wrong. Although it is said that the 5th-grade life-sustaining pill can bring you back to life, this is just a rumor. Yubeo has never really seen the effect of the 5th-grade pill, so after seeing Scene took it, she did not leave, but stayed in the ward. Watch inside. Because he spent a lot of energy breaking the formation, he accidentally fell asleep lying on the edge of the bed. The chubby little face was pillowed on the arm, and was squeezed out of shape. The flesh on both sides of the cheeks was pushed to the front, like a little bun, with the little mouth slightly open, so cute. This is what Gu Xingzi saw when he woke up. The corners of her mouth raised unconsciously, and she couldn't help but reach out her hand, trying to poke the flesh on her cheek. Suddenly, the movements of his hands stopped, and his whole body's aura seemed to change instantly, especially his eyes became deep and sharp, and a strong cold air emanated from his body. The whole person becomes extremely strong and puts great pressure on people. It was as if he had changed into a different person, and it didn't match the feeling of his face at all. The dog that was huddled in the corner and dozing off immediately stood up, as if it felt some kind of threat, and the hair all over its body stood up. However, before it barked a second time, it felt a strong pressure. Instantly lying on the ground, the dog's head was hidden between its 2 paws, shivering. Gu Xingzi immediately raised his head and looked towards the window. It was already night at this time, and it was dark outside the window. I saw a thick black fog appearing in the ward. The black fog twisted into a stream of air and transformed into a figure wearing a black cloak. The image of the sleeping person sensed something. His delicate brows wrinkled slightly and his eyelashes trembled slightly, showing signs of waking up. When Gu Xingzi saw this, he waved his hand and directly closed her 5 senses. The latter fell into a deep sleep again. He saw a black figure kneeling on one knee and said in the direction of Gu Xingzi, "I have seen the young master." "Gu Xingzi, why are you here?" It was obviously a child's voice, but its aura was completely different from before. "This subordinate has been in the human world a long time ago and has been waiting for the young master to wake up," the man in black shadow said. "Is this the person who helped the young master wake up?" He raised his head and looked at Yu Bao in front of the bed. Just then, Gu Xingzi waved his hand and a blanket was covered on Yu Bao's body, directly blocking the other party's sight. He looked at the other party with cold eyes and said, "In the future, you are not allowed to appear in front of others without my order." "Yes." The latter felt a chill in his heart. The young master was obviously still a child, but his aura was even stronger than before. Dong dong dong. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Gu Xingzi glanced at the man in the shadow and said, "Step back first." "Yes," the latter received the order and immediately disappeared into the room. Ji Qing came in, holding something wrapped in red cloth. "Is my master here?" Gu Xingzi lifted the blanket covering Yu Bao and quietly unlocked the seal on her body. Yu Bao woke up slowly when he heard the voice, rubbed his eyes and said, "Hey, I fell asleep." Then he looked at Gu Xingzi who was sitting up and said happily, "Wake up, are you awake?" Xiao Nadian was indescribably happy. "Well," the latter regained his childish look, and there was a hint of tenderness in his brows unconsciously. He pointed at Ji Qing at the door and said to her, "He's here to find you." Yu Bao turned his head and saw Ji Qing and immediately greeted him, "Xiao Qing Qing, you're here, thank you for your hard work." Ji Qing opened his mouth, but could not say the words "not hard." He was afraid that the other party would dig his grave next time. Ji Qing handed the 3 Buddha statues to her. Yu Bao looked at it and saw that the Buddha statue should have been solemn because it had been soaked in a pool of blood, but at this time it was filled with the yin energy. "Master, what are you going to do with this Buddha statue?" "Let's leave it for now." Yu Bao planned to hand it over to Xiaojin directly. She was too tired today and was too lazy to move. She had no use keeping the Buddha statue, so she might as well sell it to the mall. Yes, since the mall opened the sale function, whenever Yu Bao collects some weird things that he does not use, he will sell them directly to the mall. Of course, the points you get in exchange are usually very few. But Yu Bao doesn't mind it. Mosquitoes, no matter how small they are still meat. "I'm going back." Yu Bao woke up completely now and remembered that the two of them were still quarreling. The other person was unconscious before, and she was in a hurry to save him, forgetting that the two of them were still in a cold war. Now that he woke up, Yu Bao remembered again that this person had lost his temper for no reason. Humph, little fairies also want to save face. She should not take the initiative to reconcile with him. "Xiao Qing Qing, please take us home." Yu Bao stepped on his little bag, greeted the little cutie and walked out. Someone grabbed her wrist, and she heard Gu Xingzi's voice, "I was wrong." The young man held her hand, with a sincere expression on his face and soft and innocent eyes. Yu Bao was startled. This was the first time Xing Xing took the initiative to apologize to her. In fact, she was no longer angry with him, but it was rare for him to take the initiative to apologize. Yu Bao snorted lightly, then raised his chin and said, "Where did you go wrong?" "Gu Xingzi, I shouldn't have deliberately lost my temper with you, and I shouldn't have sued you in front of my mother. I know I was wrong. Can you forgive me?" Yu Bao's eyes were wide open and he looked at him with some surprise. Is this really the Xing Xing he knew? It seems that he has become a different person. In the past, Xing Xing never bowed his head and apologized. Gu Xingzi couldn't help but smile when he saw her cute look. He reached out and poked her chubby cheek and said, "So, do you want to forgive me?" "All right." She is not an unreasonable person. Xing Xing even apologized, and she was no longer angry with him. Yu Bao snorted softly, "It's good that you know you are wrong. This little fairy has a lot of money. If you don't follow, you are so careless and reluctant to forgive you." "Well, thank you." Gu Xingzi's smile deepened upon hearing this, and he took her hand and said, "Then can you stay with me tonight?" Yu Bao yawned and said, "But I'm so sleepy." "It doesn't matter, I can give you half of my bed," Gu Xingzi said and moved in, indicating that the other party could squeeze into the same bed with him. Yu Bao used to sleep directly on his bed when he got tired from playing in his room, but they had never used it to sleep together. Ji Qing opened his mouth to say something, but before he could speak, he felt a cold gaze looking towards him. Ji Qing couldn't help but shudder. What a scary look. How could a child have such a scary look in his eyes? But when he recognized it again, he found that the other party had withdrawn his gaze and was looking in the direction of Yu Bao. His eyes were clear and gentle, and his smile was shallow, as if the sight just now was his illusion. Ji Qing couldn't help but shook his head. Maybe he really got it wrong. End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 115. Chapter 115. No one can bully her. Ji Qing couldn't help but shook his head. Maybe he really got it wrong. I then thought that the two of them were still children, and it would be nothing even if they slept on the same bed. And it's so late, it seems that the girl is really sleepy. The words that came to my lips were swallowed again. Okay, Yubao didn't think much about it. She had never slept on Xingxing's bed anyway, and she was too sleepy. After yawning, she climbed directly onto the bed using her hands and feet. Gu Xingzi helped her cover the quilt considerately, and then looked at Ji Qing. Please help me send the little cutie back. Me, Ji Qing pointed to himself, and then looked at the black dog in the corner. It wasn't enough to help him run errands and dig graves, but he also had to be the dog's driver? But for some reason, when he thought of the look in his eyes just now, Ji Qing's mouth turned faster than his brain. Okay, I get it. After I agreed, I realized that I had been frightened by a little kid. Ning Sheng went out to make a phone call. When she came back, she saw two little guys sleeping close to each other with their heads leaning against each other. I couldn't help but laugh a little. I was worried that the two of them would not sleep well. I was about to take Yubao to the nursing room outside. There was also a bed in it, when I saw Gu Xingzi sleeping next to him suddenly opened his eyes and said, "Don't touch her." "Wake up, are you awake?" Ning Sheng was stunned for a moment. Although she believed in Yu Bao's ability, the brat vomited so much blood and was still awake, so she would be lying if she said she wasn't worried. At this moment, seeing him finally wake up, Ning Sheng's heart finally fell to the ground. "Yeah," Gu Xingzi nodded lightly. "I'm going to call the doctor," Ning Sheng said as she stood up and went outside. "No need." Gu Xingzi stopped the other party, glanced in Yu Bao's direction and said, "I'm fine. It's too late today. It's better to wait until tomorrow to see a doctor for a checkup." Ning Sheng understood the look in the brat's eyes. He was worried that he would disturb Yu Bao from sleeping. It was rare for this kid to be so considerate, and judging from his appearance, it was indeed nothing serious. While Ning Sheng breathed a sigh of relief, she couldn't help but said with a smile, "Okay, then I'll find the doctor tomorrow morning." "Okay, you two go to sleep." The next day, Yu Bao opened his eyes in a daze and found that he was actually sleeping on the same bed as Gu Xingzi. He was stunned, not because of shyness, but simply because he was sleepy. She had just woken up and looked dull. Gu Xingzi's voice rang in her ears, "Are you awake?" Yu Bao blinked and his consciousness slowly returned. After he woke up completely, the first thing he did was to grab Gu Xingzi's hand and feel his pulse. One of the 5 Taoist arts is medicine. Although Yu Bao is not as good as Feng Shui, and alchemy, he still knows a little bit about it. Medicine is divided into prescriptions, acupuncture, and spiritual treatments. Prescriptions are made from various drugs into powders and pills to treat diseases. Acupuncture is a combination of acupuncture and moxibustion. It uses the principles of human veins and qi and blood circulation to stimulate the affected area to achieve the purpose of treating diseases. As for spiritual healing, it is a method that uses people's psychological state to treat diseases, which is the so-called psychotherapy in modern times. However, Yu Bao can now take someone's pulse, and prescribing prescriptions and acupuncture are still at the theoretical stage and have not been practiced in practice. "How is it?" Gu Xingzi let her hold his hand to feel the pulse, and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. This man rarely smiled before, so why did he feel like his whole person had changed after going through hell? Yu Bao's eyes were dazzled by the other party's smile. Sure enough, good-looking people also look good when they smile. Oh, that's good, Yu Bao blinked and then put down his wrist. As expected of the life-extending pill she spent 5 million points to exchange for, his current pulse is strong and it couldn't be better. Produced by the mall, it is indeed a childlike product. Dong dong dong, there was a knock at the door. They saw Ning Sheng standing at the door, holding a thermos box in his hand, smiling and saying to the two of them, "You two are awake. Are you hungry? I brought you breakfast." As soon as Ning Sheng finished speaking, Yu Bao's stomach growled. Yu Bao looked embarrassed and quickly got out of the bed and said, "I'm going to wash up first." After taking 2 steps, she remembered that this was a hospital and she didn't bring any toiletries. The whole person couldn't help but froze, blinked, and didn't know what to do for a while. Ning Sheng rarely saw her confused look, so he stepped forward and touched her little head and said, "I've prepared everything for you. It's in the bathroom." "Thank you, godmother," Yu Bao laughed again. After breakfast, Yu Bao said goodbye to everyone and prepared to go to school. She just called her home and asked the driver to pick her up and take her to school. As for the school bag, she doesn't need to worry since her nephew is here. Xingxing's illness has recovered, and there is no use for her to stay in the hospital. Moreover, the feng shui problem of the Gu family's ancestral grave has been solved, so there is no need to worry about the other party leaving you and you will be unlucky. "I'll go with you." Gu Xingzi also got off the hospital bed. But Ning Shenglan said, "You can't go to school yet, you have to stay in the hospital and wait for a doctor's examination." "Gu Xingzi, I'm fine now." At this point, he couldn't help but glance at Yu Bao. This girl has quite a lot of secrets. Although he was unconscious yesterday, he still had some consciousness in his subconscious. Unexpectedly, this girl actually fed him a 5th-grade life-sustaining pill. Things that shouldn't exist in this world were actually taken out of that girl's hands. If outsiders knew about it, I don't know what kind of uproar it would cause. Ning Sheng said, "Then you have to wait until the doctor has examined you and said you can be discharged before leaving." Although this boy does look like an ordinary person, Ning Sheng has not forgotten that he was unconscious when he was sent to the hospital yesterday. Not to mention that he vomited so much blood afterwards. Speaking of which, thanks to Yu Bao, Xing Xing saved his life. Not only Xing Xing, but also their families' lives were saved by each other. If it weren't for Yu Bao's presence, I don't know what would have happened to their family now. I don't know how to repay such a great kindness. Thinking like this, his eyes couldn't help but fall on Gu Xingzi, and he reminded, "Thanks to Yu Bao this time. If it weren't for Yu Bao, I'm afraid your life would have been lost. Your life was saved by Yu Bao. From now on, you have to protect her outside and don't bully her, you know." Gu Xingzi looked in the direction of Yu Bao and said, "I know. I will protect her from now on, and no one can bully her." Ning Sheng was slightly surprised. Since when did this kid become so easy to talk to? It would have been nice if this was the case before and I didn't have a cold face. It's really uncomfortable to be so talkative all of a sudden. Could it be that the car accident hit his brain and straightened his crooked brain circuit? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 116. Chapter 116 Secret. Listen to your godmother and I'll come see you after school. Yu Bao waved his paw towards Gu Xingzi. "I know," Gu Xingzi replied obediently. The more Ning Sheng looked at it, the more strange it became. She always felt that the brat seemed to be a different person after he woke up. At the gate of the school, Lu Zuan ran over with a bang, a school bag on his back and another in his arms. He ran to Yu Bao in one breath and said, "Little aunt, wake up, are you okay?" The two of them went to the hospital together last night, but later when Yu Bao came back to get something, Lu Zuan came back with him. Did not wait until Gu Zingzi woke up. Yo Bao, don't worry, Xing Xing is fine. Great, he knew that he was right to find his little aunt. Everyone said that his little aunt was a lucky star. As long as my little aunt is here, Xing Xing will be fine. The two of them arrived in the classroom. Before the school bell rang, Yu Bao yawned and said to his nephew Lu, "I'll take a nap first. The teacher is here to call me." Lu Zuan, "Okay. But I'm also very sleepy. How about we sleep together? The teacher will wake us up when he comes." Yo Bao, that seems to make sense. The two of them lay down on the table and fell asleep. However, the two of them were not woken up by the teacher. It is said that the teacher fell down on the way to teach their class. They were fine except for a hole in their pants, so they went back to change clothes temporarily. When I got back, the class was over. The two of them were woken up by the bell ringing. Yu Bao got some sleep after a lesson and felt energetic, but nephew Lu was not doing well. In front of the podium, Lu Zuan was called up. It's not because he fell asleep in class, but because he didn't turn in his homework. The teacher asked, "Where is your homework?" Lu Zuan, "I didn't write it." "Why didn't you write it?" Lu Zuan hesitated for a while, then said the most cruel words with the most timid expression, "I'm too lazy to write." Yu Bao glanced at him with admiration. "Awesome. What did you say?" The teacher was stunned for a moment and looked at him in disbelief. Yu Bao suspected that the other party must have thought that he heard wrongly. Lu Zuan, on the other hand, became a little bolder after what he said just now, a little less weak, a little more courageous, and repeated it loudly, "I'm too lazy to write." The expression on the teacher's face suddenly became ugly, and his face turned blue and purple. Even if he said he forgot to write, he was too lazy to write. This was clearly a provocation. The other party pointed at him for a while and then said, "Okay, very good, you fell asleep in class and didn't do your homework yet. Call your parents over." I want to ask the other party, what do you still want to learn from this? I don't want to get involved. Lu Zuan slapped his chest and said, "My mother is timid. Don't scare her. If anything happens, come at me." The teacher was so angry that his hair almost stood up. Okay, I won't scare your parents. You will copy yesterday's homework for me 10 times. If you can't finish it, you won't go to school tomorrow. I can't teach students like you." Finally, the teacher angrily kicked him off the podium. Lu Zuan returned to his position with his head drooped, and Yu Bao took out a bottle of yogurt from his bag and handed it to him. Lu Zuan inserted the straw and took a sip when he suddenly thought of something and raised his head and said, "That's not right, little aunt, why didn't the teacher find you? It was obvious that the other party didn't do his homework either." Yu Bao, "Of course it's because I finished writing." "When did you write it?" "Why don't I know?" She clearly hadn't even opened her school bag. Yu Bao, "Secret. She did not write. She was in the hospital last night and had no chance to do her homework." However, this did not trouble her. A small blind trick can be done. Of course, she just needs to know this kind of thing. After all, it's not something worth showing off. Yesterday was a special occasion, and she usually did her homework well. Little nephew Lu thought that she had finished writing at school in advance, so he did not continue to ask any more questions. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of the two of them. The visitor asked loudly, "Where is Gu Zingzi? Why didn't he come to school with you?" Little nephew Lu looked at the strange girl in front of him and said, "Who are you? Why should we tell you about Xing Xing?" "I didn't ask you," the girl replied fiercely, but her eyes were always looking in the direction of Yu Bao. Yu Bao blinked, "Do I know you?" "You don't remember me?" The girl stared at her with wide eyes, Her aura became more fierce, her face was slightly distorted, as if she had been greatly humiliated. Yubao, should I remember you? It's not that her memory is bad, it's just that she has too many things to remember, so she usually forgets some irrelevant people or things after seeing them, and doesn't bother to remember them deliberately. The girl gritted her teeth, stamped her feet and said, I am Song Si-yu. Oh, it's you. Yubao was more impressed by the name than the person. When he heard her talking about Song Si-yu, the word chocolate automatically appeared in his mind, and then he equated the other person with the girl who gave Gu Zingzi chocolate. Song Si-yu was dissatisfied with her attitude, but thinking of the purpose of coming to her, she suppressed her dissatisfaction and glared at her. Let me ask you, where is Gu Zingzi? Why didn't he come to school today? Yo Bao, he had a car accident and is in the hospital. It wasn't a secret anyway, so Yo Bao thought it was okay to tell her. Huh, Song Si-yu exclaimed, her eyes suddenly turned red, and she asked Yo Bao with an expression as if she was about to cry, is he okay? Yo Bao looked at her nervous look and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Tisk, it seems she really likes seeing. Don't worry, Yu Bao said, I'm not disabled, not disfigured, not seriously injured, nothing wrong at all, it's pretty good. This is all her credit. The girl was dissatisfied with her answer, glared at her and said, how can you talk like that? Yu Bao, isn't it because I'm worried about you? It's really hard to be a good person these days. Who said I was worried? The girl blushed, turned around and ran away. Yo Bao. If you're not worried, why did she specifically ask? After school in the evening, Yu Bao went directly to the hospital. Gu Zingzi's health was actually better. However, because he was unconscious the day before and suddenly recovered so quickly, Ning Sheng asked him to stay in the hospital longer for fear of attracting too much attention. 2 days. When Yubao left, Gu Zingzi was reading a book. Yubao opened his school bag, took out a notebook and handed it to him. You didn't go to school today, so these are the notes I took for you. Thank you. Gu Zingzi took the note and did not open it immediately. In fact, he had already finished studying their content for the semester. However, this girl is usually very lazy and relies on her brain to do her best and never takes notes. It's rare that I took special notes for him. Gu Zingzi stroked his notebook and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 117. Chapter 117 Like me? After handing the notes to Gu Zingzi, Yubao rearranged his school bag, carried it behind his back and said, I'm going back. Gu Zingzi raised his head and looked at her in surprise and said, you are leaving so soon? Can't you stay with me for a while? Yo Bao, I promised Grandpa that I would eat with him today. But I brought someone to accompany you. After saying that, he looked at the door and said, you can come in. Gu Zingzi looked at her line of sight in surprise, but after waiting for a long time and seeing no one, Yu Bao ran out and pulled the person in. She is a small girl. The latter looked nervous, clutching the shoulder strap of his school bag tightly with both hands. He glanced secretly in Gu Zingzi's direction and quickly lowered his head. Gu Zingzi took a look and had no impression. Then he looked in Yu Bao's direction suspiciously. I don't understand what she means by bringing someone to see him. Her name is Song Si-yu. She is the one who gave you chocolate last time I heard that you were injured and came here to see you. Yubao was stopped by the other party after school. Hearing that the other party wanted to visit Gu Zingzi and mentioned the last time she ate the other party's chocolate, Yubao brought the other party with him. Gu, classmate Gu, hello. Song Si-yu blushed and said softly. It was clear that he looked aggressive in front of Yubao before, but now he turned into a little sheep. Yubao clicked his tongue in surprise and waved to the two of them, you two chat slowly, I'll leave first. After that, he walked towards the door. Gu Zingzi watched the girl leave, then looked at the girl at the door. He slowly came to his senses and couldn't help but laugh in anger. Stinky girl, you can do it now. Hee, the monk can run away but cannot run away from the temple. Slowly settle the score with her later. He then looked at the girl at the door and said, do you like me? This was the first time the little girl saw Gu Xingzi smile. Her cheeks couldn't help but blush slightly, and the next second she heard Gu Xingzi ask, what do you like about me? The little girl hummed, you are very smart, good at studying, and very, very good looking. I am the best looking person I have ever seen. Gu Xingzi was still smiling 1 second, and the next second, his expression suddenly turned cold and said, oh. Since I am so good, what do you think I will like you? Do you like you if you are uglier than me, or do you like you more than me? Fool. Girl. The expression on his face suddenly froze. He stared in Gu Xingzi's direction with wide eyes. She was just a little girl who had not yet grown up in someone's hands. When had she seen such a formation, she was stunned. Then her eyes turned red and she cried wow dash. Gu Xingzi's voice followed coldly, don't cry. Song Siyu was so frightened that she stopped talking and burped. I felt that the temperature around me had dropped several degrees. I blinked uneasily. Looking at Gu Xingzi's dark eyes, I felt inexplicably a little scared. Well, what a scary look. Gu Xingzi, I don't like people who are uglier and dumber than me, understand, although he is not very old, his words are particularly powerful. Ming, I understand. Song Siyu nodded tremblingly. You understand, why don't you leave quickly? I know, Song Siyu clutched the strap of her school bag, with a hint of crying in her voice, and quickly turned around and ran away. Ning Sheng came in from the outside and obviously felt that the brat's face was not very good looking. Son, what's wrong? It's okay. Gu Xingzi squinted his eyes fell on the notebook beside him, and his expression softened slightly. That's all, that girl is still young, so she can be trained by herself slowly. When Yubeo got home, he saw a big red sports car parked at the door. Huh? The third brother is back. Yubao couldn't help but his eyes lit up and he immediately quickened his pace. The third young man of the Lu family, Lu Ting, is the top male in the entertainment industry, with both popularity and strength. Both a singer and an actor. Every day I'm either busy filming or preparing for a new album, and I don't go home more than 10 times a year. But every time he comes back, he brings a bunch of weird gifts to Yubao. Yubao expressed that he was very satisfied with this brother. Third brother, Yubao ran all the way into the old house and saw a slender and tall figure standing in the yard. Xiao Yubao, do you miss your brother? The man slowly turned around, his peach blossom eyes slightly raised, and he had the ability to discharge electricity when looking at people. This person is the third young master of the Lu family, Lu Ting. Hands in the fandom regard him as an acting genius, a stage king, and the ceiling of the appearance world. This shows that fans like and affirm him. As a face controller, Yubao also likes this good-looking third brother who is generous with his actions. Every time the other party goes out to film, he always prepares amulets, koi blessings, and other things for him. In the past few years, all the movies and TV series he starred in have been box office hits, and the ratings have been soaring. His new album broke sales records as soon as it was released, and his career can be said to have reached its peak. Speaking of which, Lu Ting has developed so well in recent years, and Yubao also has a share of the credit. After all, koi luck is not in vain. Lu Ting also liked this cousin who was more than 10 years younger. As soon as he saw her, he smiled and said, the third brother came back specially to give you something. Really, she knew that the third brother was the best, and something good would happen to him when he came back. Lu Ting took her to the house, took out a box and handed it to her. Yubao's eyes suddenly lit up. Is this jade dragon ginseng? The thing in the box looked similar to ginseng, but it was white all over and shaped like white jade. Can be used to practice life-sustaining pills. It is difficult to find alchemists nowadays. One of the important reasons is that there are too few medicinal materials for alchemy, and many alchemy materials have become extinct. It's simply not available on the market. What can be purchased are some materials for refining ordinary elixirs. Most of the materials for Yubeo alchemy are purchased directly from the mall, and then sold to the mall after being successfully refined. There are very few people who really know that she can make alchemy, not many even her family members know. Precious medicinal materials such as jade dragon ginseng cost dozens or even millions each, and ordinary alchemists could not afford them. What's more, the alchemy may fail, and even after spending millions, it fails. Most people cannot afford such a loss. That's why it's hard to find alchemists and pills are scarce. However, if it can be refined, even if it is sold for tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions, there will be people vying for it. Lu Ting smiled and said, I knew it, you must know him. This time I went to a beach in Southeast Asia to film a movie, and I bought it from an underground black market auction. There I heard that this thing can relax menstruation, activate blood circulation, and prolong life. Logically, something like this should be given to the elderly at home. But Lu Ting felt that it might be more useful if given to his little cousin at home. End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 118. Chapter 118 Vinegar Essence is online again. Yubeo spent most of his time refining elixirs at night. Following Mr. Lu's advice, Yubeo did not deliberately advance the idea of refining elixirs. However, as everyone lived together for a long time, the aroma of the elixirs produced would inevitably arouse the excitement of other people in the house. People's attention. However, fortunately, every time the pill is produced in the early morning, it happens to be when everyone is asleep, which reduces the risk of exposure. Besides Mr. Lu, the first person in the family to discover was Lu Ting. Because he was always filming night scenes for a period of time, his biological clock was seriously disrupted. The agent asked him to go home and rest for a while. In the first 2 days after returning home, I couldn't sleep at night. At 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I suddenly smelled a strange fragrance. He followed the scent and discovered the secret of this little cousin. Yubao didn't hide it from him, and even specially helped him refine some awakening pills and calming pills. With these pills, he no longer has to worry about the disorder of his biological clock. The awakening pill and the soothing pill are common pills. The ingredients for refining them can be bought in pharmacies. They are not expensive and do not require points. Moreover, after taking them, they will not only make him fall asleep quickly, but also make him fall asleep for the first time. Still in the best condition for the next 2 days. Others would have dark circles under their eyes the next day after filming a night scene, but he was still energetic. Everyone sighed at his good physical fitness, but they didn't know that these were all due to Yubeo. Yubeo would prepare some for him every once in a while. It is a medicine that contains 3 parts of poison, but Yubeo's elixirs are refined with spiritual weapons. Not only do they remove the toxicity, but the elixir itself also contains a small amount of spiritual energy. Long-term use is not only harmless to the body, but it can also temper a person's health. Constitution, helping him eliminate impurities from the body. Since taking Yubeo's elixir, Lu Ting's skin has improved a lot. Even if he stays up late every day and puts on makeup, his skin is still in the best condition, even better than before. Even the makeup artist lamented that his face belongs to God. Yubeo was very happy looking at the big jade dragon ginseng in his hand. Such a large stick with good quality, enough for her to practice several pills. When the time comes, you can get a lot of points by selling it to the mall. Even though she spent 5 million points on the life-sustaining pill last time, because she broke the Feng Shui formation and saved Gu Zhengzi's life, the system rewarded her with a large amount of points afterwards. Although it was not as much as what she spent, it was enough to comfort her heart that was severely hurt by the loss of points. If she is lucky and can refine a few 4th grade elixirs, she might be able to upgrade them soon. The third brother is the best. Yubeo likes the third brother the most. Yubeo was holding the box of ginseng, and he was pouring out nice words as if he was asking for no money. Little heartless boy, you like third brother the most, what about me? She heard Lusu's voice coming from behind her faintly. He just spent less time with her because he was busy with the high school entrance examination. This girl's favorite brother has turned into a human? Huh? Don't you have to study in the evening today? Yubao turned his head and looked at Lusu, who walked in from the door in surprise. Lusu stepped forward, raised his hand and knocked her on the forehead. Tomorrow is the weekend, are you stupid in class? That's right, in the 3rd grade of junior high school, students have to attend evening self-study, except for Fridays. Yubeo immediately held the other person's hand and said in a soft voice, then can my brother accompany me tomorrow? Humph, you don't like third brother the most, why don't you let third brother accompany you? Lusu snorted coldly and said to his traitorous sister without any pretense. Yubeo stuck out his tongue and said, third brother is so busy. Of course I have to stay at home and have a good rest when I take a vacation. What's more, I don't want to be walked on the street and be watched. Lusu, I'm also very busy. Yes, find someone else. Come on, my jealous brother is online again. Yobao's little face was full of helplessness, and he said with an expression that he really couldn't do anything to the other party, well, my brother doesn't have time, so I have to find someone else. You dare? The next second, the other party grabbed the little tug on his head and said, I don't think anyone dares to take my sister out without my permission. Domineering, Yubao made a face at the other party, then turned around to look at Lu Ting. Third brother, are you going out tonight? That's right, Lu Ting smiled and nodded. Thinking that the other party would not ask him this question for no reason, he couldn't help but ask, but what will happen tonight? Yubeo frowned and said, can you not go? She sensed that the third brother had evil spirits on his body, and she was afraid that something bad would happen recently. Lu Ting smiled and said, I'm afraid I won't be able to have dinner with an employer at night. Yobao said with a serious look on his face, then the third brother must pay attention to protect yourself. Then he took out another thing and handed it to the other person, this is for you. What is this? Lu Ting looked at the bell in his hand. It was very small and made no sound when he rang it. I don't know what use it can be. Yubao, this is to ward off the peach blossom disaster. The third brother must carry it with him, otherwise, his innocence may be lost. A group of pink evil spirits gathered between the other party's eyebrows, indicating that he will have a peach blossom evil in the near future. And it could very well be tonight. Hearing this, Lu Ting couldn't help but laugh. You are a little brat, how do you still know your innocence? Yubao said with a serious face, third brother, don't you believe Yubao? What Yubao said is true. If third brother doesn't want to suffer disaster from women, just listen to Yubao's words. Naturally, Lu Ting would not doubt the other party's ability. Seeing her serious expression, he couldn't help but become solemn. He raised his hand and rubbed her forehead hard and said, don't worry, the third brother will pay attention to it and will definitely not follow suit. I just brought you a third sister-in-law. The dinner in the evening is set at a high-end club. The manager is a beautiful woman in her 30s. Her family used to be a real estate agent and made a lot of money. She is now investing in the entertainment industry. Besides the management, there were 2 other actresses at the dinner party, the first and second female lead in the new drama. Because of Yubao's reminder, Lu Ting was careful when he drank. He didn't touch any wine brought to him by others. The only glass of wine he drank was brought to him by his assistant. Even so, Lu Ting still fell into the trap. Ding ding dong. When he was confused, a clear ringing of bells suddenly rang in his mind. waking up his dazed consciousness. Lu Ting felt excited all over. He opened his eyes suddenly and saw a person supporting him standing at the door of a guest room in the club. He was holding a room card in his hand and was about to open the door. Lu Ting grabbed the other person's wrist, raised his head, and saw the other person's face that looked a little horrified due to excessive nervousness. The assistant looked at him with a pale face and said, "Tang, brother Tang, are you not drunk? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet." Author, Pearfish. Chapter 119. Chapter 119, Be Ruthless Than Anyone Else. Lu Ting rubbed his still aching forehead, glanced at the room in front of him and said, "Where is this? Why don't you take me home?" The assistant swallowed, his face showing guilt and nervousness, and he didn't know how to explain it for a while. The next second, the door in front of him opened, revealing Zifang's bright face. The latter had already put on lace pajamas. He looked at Lu Ting's assistant with dissatisfaction and said, "Why are you so slow to send someone off? Help the person in." Lu Ting suddenly looked at his assistant, who turned pale and said, "Brother Ting, I." Lu Ting still didn't understand anything, so he let go of his hand and stood up slowly. It was only then that the employer noticed that Lu Ting was awake. A trace of regret flashed across Mian's face and she said, "Are you awake? Do you want to come in and sit down?" "No need," after Lu Ting said, he took a deep look at his assistant, then turned around and strode outside. The assistant's face was pale. After bending towards the employer, he lowered his head and hurriedly followed Lu Ting in front. In the car, Lu Ting looked at his assistant coldly, his peach blossom eyes were rare and cold and sharp. "Why do you do this? I remember that I have never treated you badly." Lu Ting has a good personality and is generous. He is very polite to his assistants and other staff around him. He believed that he had never treated them badly, nor had he ever insulted them in any way. He doesn't understand why the other party does this. He was guarded against everyone else present today, except the other party. But it was the other person, his assistant, the person closest to him, who had tampered with his wine. Prepare to send him to the employer's bed. Had it not been for the bell given by his little cousin, he would have been really innocent. If it were exposed that he was sleeping with his boss for a role, his stardom for so many years would probably be ruined. The other party is trying to destroy him. The assistant lowered his head and said, "Brother, the company arranged for me to do this. As you know, my contract is signed with the company. I dare not disobey what they tell me. It is true that the other party is a good boss, but the person who holds his contract and pays him wages is the brokerage company." Everything was already clear. Lu Ting stared into the darkness, his eyes darkened. "I remember that the contract with the company is due to expire in 3 months. Tell the company that I plan to take a vacation starting tomorrow, and then until the end of the contract, I will take any job again." The agent came forward to talk to him before. The company hoped that he could renew the contract and offer generous renewal conditions. However, Lu Ting was planning to open his own studio, so he refused. The company didn't say anything on the surface, but he didn't expect it to be waiting for him here. This is to sell him before the contract expires. They actually used him to please the management. No, maybe there is still the idea of blackmailing him by holding on to the black information of sleeping with him. Over the years, he has helped the company make a lot of money, and 70% of the company's revenue was created by him alone. He can understand that the company is reluctant to let him go. I just didn't expect that the company would treat him like this. Lu Ting plans to confront the company head-on. With his current status in the entertainment industry, he no longer has to worry about the economic company behind him. He has works and is popular, these are his confidence. The assistant next to him didn't dare to say a word. If he failed in this matter, he would probably not be able to stay in the company any longer. He also offended Lu Ting. Although Lu Ting seems to have a good temper, his assistant has been with him for so long and knows that he can be ruthless than anyone else. There are no truly pure and kind people in the entertainment industry. It would be okay if the other party doesn't pursue it, but if the other party pursues it. The assistant's face gradually turned pale. Lu Ting announced his vacation, and half of the previously discussed work was put on hold. As for those who have signed contracts, liquidated damages will be directly compensated. In short, in the past 3 months, the company could not hope to make another dime from him. Soon, Lu Ting unilaterally issued a statement of termination on the internet regarding the expiration of the contract. The company did not respond. In short, it is not honorable to terminate the contract. Following this, the media broke the news that he was being dismissed from his job because he was acting like a big name and had offended his employer. Some media also said that he was ungrateful and would terminate his contract with the company if he became popular. Lu Ting knew in his heart that these were leaks from the company, with the purpose of destroying him. Fortunately, fans don't buy it. Nowadays, there are many artists who have opened their own studios after becoming popular. Their brother is not the first and will not be the last. Fans all understand and support him. However, Lu Ting didn't do nothing. He went directly to the marketing account to release the recording of the conversation between him and his assistant in the car that day. Fans were immediately angry when they found out that the company actually asked their assistants to get their brothers drunk in an attempt to send their brothers to the employer's bed, and they all went to the company's official website to leave messages and boycotted new dramas invested and planned by the economic company. Other artists who had been cheated by the company also stepped back. For a time, the reputation of the economic company dropped sharply. There was a lot of scolding on the internet. Following this, several recent dramas invested by this economic company were banned and rectified due to reports. Some of its popular artists have been exposed to scandals such as hidden marriages, childbirth, and even drug abuse and prostitution. Some dramas that have already been aired have been removed from the platform, and even unfinished dramas have been forced to stop airing. In addition, there was also a wave of termination of contracts by its artists. Many artists announced their breakup with the company. For a time, the stock price plummeted and suffered heavy losses. The news of being acquired soon spread. Of course, these are all things for later. At this time, Yu Beijing, Xiesui and Lu Su were sitting in Xie's car. Xiesui, my dad was interested in a piece of land here some time ago and planned to take it to develop a new building. No, the bidding will be held next week. I specially asked you to come over and help me see if there are any problems with this land. Can I invest in it? Because the resort business is booming, the Xie family has made a lot of money in the past 2 years. No, once he had money, Father Xie thought about investing in new real estate. Because of what happened at the previous resort, Xie's father now has full confidence in Yu Bao's abilities. I wish I could ask Yu Bao to help me figure out everything big or small. Always feel that he can feel at ease only after the other party has figured it out. These are all old customers. The Xie family is generous, and coupled with the relationship between Xiesui and Yu Bao will naturally not refuse. Taking advantage of the weekend, we went to the destination with each other. Far away, before reaching the place, but just getting close to that area, Yu Bao could already see the thick black mist floating in the sky above that area. The black energy was actually stronger than the black energy she had felt at the Gu family's ancestral tomb before. It's just that in the Gu family, someone used a formation to use the black mist to forcefully seize luck, but here, it's because of the ghostly aura. End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 120. Chapter 120. This is more troublesome. The car finally stopped in front of an abandoned old factory. This used to be a suburb, but in recent years, the city has expanded and the suburbs have turned into urban areas. Many new buildings have been built around it, but this area is still abandoned. To the inside is the urban area, and to the outside is the new city. There is also a new airport and train station nearby. The transportation is convenient and the geographical advantage is obvious. No wonder Xia's father is moved. Yo Bao looked at the ruins and frowned tightly. Other than the hospital, she had never felt such a strong yin energy anywhere else. After a moment, he turned to look at Xia Suideo. I remember you said that the bidding will not start until next week. I advised my uncle not to shoot. Is there anything wrong with this land? Xia Sui asked. The reason why this land is vacant is naturally not because no one is interested in it. On the contrary, several big developers are interested in this place, but for some unknown reason, the government has been suppressing this land and refusing to release it in the past few years. In the past 2 years since the auction, rumors of selling this land have gradually spread. The news that Xia's father received was that the people above had previously refused to sell the land, but now it seems that the other party has backed down. It was the new leader who decided to put the land up for auction. You must know that the government's main financial revenue comes from land sales. When the new leader comes to power, the economy is one of the most important political achievements. The value of this land is higher than that of several surrounding lands, so there is no reason to leave it alone. After Xia's father got the news, he also wanted to get a share of the pie, but he was afraid that there would be some problems with the land, so he asked Yu Bao to help look after the land. Yo Bao, does it count if there are hundreds of ghosts living here? Xia Sui heard the words and instantly felt that the surrounding temperature had dropped several degrees. He couldn't help but rub his arms and said, "Are you serious?" Yo Bao, if I guessed correctly, some accident must have happened here before, right? I know this, Xia Sui said, referring to the news he heard from Xia's father. This place used to be a chemical factory. Later, improper storage of dangerous chemicals caused an explosion and caused a fire, which burned down several factory buildings. That's why it was destroyed. It was abandoned, and I heard that several people died at that time. How many people died in such a large chemical plant explosion? Do you believe this? Yu Bao casually grabbed a ghost who was leaning against Xia Sui's neck and was trying to blow on him to scare him. Xia Sui was startled when he saw her action. He subconsciously looked around and said, "You just said that there are hundreds of ghosts living here. Are there some ghosts near us?" Yu Bao nodded. "There is a ghost who was just preparing to play a trick on you." Xia Sui immediately showed an expression that he was about to cry. He rushed behind Yu Bao, grabbed her shoulders tightly and said, "Where is it? Hurry up and put it away." "Yu Bao, already collected." Xia Sui patted his chest and breathed a sigh of relief. In the next second, Yu Bao's voice was heard again, "But there are still several standing over there." Yu Bao looked in the direction of the factory gate. Xia froze and looked along her line of sight, but he saw nothing. "Xia Sui, isn't it daytime now? Why can they come out?" Yo Bao looked at the direction above the ruins where the blackness was thickest and said, "Maybe it's because there are powerful ghosts protecting us here." "Xia Sui, are ghosts also divided into levels?" "Of course," Yu Bao said, "ghosts can be divided into ghosts, little ghosts, big ghosts, evil ghosts, fierce ghosts, ghost generals, ghost gods, ghost kings, ghost emperors, etc. according to their abilities. Ghosts refer to those who have just died. The soul of a person and then formed is also called a wandering soul, which generally does not harm people. Little ghosts are formed from the resentment of dead people and have the basic ability to harm people. However, this kind of ghost generally has low magic power and has never harmed anyone. If the person who died was killed or had strong resentment when he died, he would directly turn into a big ghost. Then there are evil ghosts and fierce ghosts. Serious ghosts are a kind of very ferocious big ghosts. They often harm people everywhere and have deep resentment. They are usually the ghosts caused by the resentment of those who committed suicide with unjust injustice or were murdered by others. And here, there is at least a big ghost of the level of a fierce ghost. Siesui. Once he heard that there was a big and ferocious ghost here, Siesui couldn't help but tremble. Is this kind of ghost difficult to deal with? If you take action, can you subdue it? It's hard to say so far, she has not encountered a ghost of this level. Yubao, if it is just an ordinary evil ghost, it can be killed directly, but if the other party has any grievances, it will be more troublesome. If this kind of ghost is killed directly, it is easy to be involved in the cause and effect. You must help it fulfill its wish and then give it away. Go to reincarnation. This is more troublesome. And Yubao looked at so many ghosts in front of her, and she didn't believe that there was no injustice. She is still a child, and the thought of having to conquer so many ghosts makes her very tired. Not to mention there is a powerful big ghost, whom Yubao doesn't really want to provoke. She would rather make elixirs than exorcise ghosts. After all, making alchemy is much easier than catching ghosts, and you get more points. That's why Yubao persuaded the other party to give up the bidding from the beginning, instead of thinking about helping to collect all the ghosts here. Siesui, you just said that there are many ghosts living here, couldn't they all die in that bombing? Before Yubao could speak, he denied it. It shouldn't be possible. If it's true, it's so big, how could it not be reported? It can be regarded as a serious accident, and it happened in Yunjing, which was enough to shock the whole country. But in fact, apart from the fire report, only a few casualties were reported. These days, if there are no deaths anywhere, it would not be a big deal if only a few people died. That's why so many people are optimistic about this piece of land and are rushing to bid for it. From what this girl means, the number of people who died is wrong. It would be understandable if only a small part was concealed, but it would be impossible to conceal so much, right? Who gave the other party the courage? Lu Su said with a stern face, you should probably ask the person in charge of the accident. As soon as he heard that there were many ghosts gathered here, he realized that the matter was not simple. However, the house fire occurred more than 30 years ago, and the people who participated in the explosion may not be still alive. It is probably not easy to investigate the original accident. Moreover, it is not easy to imagine the identity of the person behind such a big accident and suppressing this land from bidding for so many years. Even if they could find out, they might not be able to do anything. Yubao looked in the direction of the factory gate and said, or, you can catch a few ghosts and ask them. I guess no one knows the situation here better than them. It is definitely not just a coincidence that there are so many ghosts gathered in this place. There must be a reason. End of this chapter.